National Battle of the Year competition, which is a global breakdancing competition they have either in Germany or France. Korea always wins. Korea will always win this competition. But this is the UK's team from 2013, and they are so much fun to watch. God damn. Yeah. One of the reasons why Korea wins this competition is that there's, as you might know, that if you live in South Korea, and you're male, military conscription is not a choice. You are conscripted into the military, in the South Korean military for, I believe it's 2 years, and there's no way out. Asterisk. There is actually 2 ways out. The 2 ways out of military conscription as a young male in South Korea is number 1, being really, really, really good at StarCraft, and number 2, being really, really, really good at breakdancing. If you're really good at baseball, pick up a rifle. But if you're really good at breakdancing, you can actually get out of the military. And would it surprise you to know, it's because of a senator's son who was good at both of those things. Going into our talk in just a moment, but speaking of the Korean team, this is Korea versus Japan in the final. I think this is, 2005. The very idea of breakdancing battles is just delightful to me because, it's a form of conflict resolution. Conflict resolution by breakdancing. Think of how much better literally everything would be in this world if we solved problems with breakdancing. I would lose most arguments because I'm not a good breakdancer, but it would be fun to lose. We'll be starting in just a second here. I can do a little tiny bit of top rock. Like I said, I'm not awesome. I'm really, my love of watching it, the Chuck Jones, the Warner Brothers cartoonist said, the problem with me is that my taste is too good. So I understand enough to know how bad I am at it.
8 minutes to go, 8 minutes to go.
I come into an interesting quandary, and it's a quandary that I've put myself in. This is something that was not forced upon me. This is something I forced upon myself, which is that, on the one hand, it's nice pre-show kind of thing to show breakdancing, which is something that I love to watch and share with other people. The problem is that this point in the show happens where I go, and now me? Sorry. But to that end, we're going to get this working. And ooh, there we go. So hi, I'm Lemon. How's it going? I have been doing websites for, I'd say probably about 18 years. It's something that I've been doing both personally and professionally. I do a lot of them. I make websites for money. I make websites for no money. I just enjoy it. I like making websites. I like talking about websites. And I like to think about how to make websites better. and bring whatever knowledge I can to other people, because I think that that's fun for me. It's fun to talk about websites. And to that end, I want to talk about websites, and today I want to talk about performance, by which I mean website performance. Okay. That is not the most spectacular of subjects. It's a little bit dry on the surface, but there's interesting stuff in here. So we're going to go through the agenda. My agenda here is I'm going to start by defining what is the problem. What is the problem with traditional website performance? What is the problem with the state of the web in 2020? And why should I care about it? The website loads, screw it. There is reasons why you should care. There's also things that you can do. And step number 4, the thing that we'll get to in the very, very end, is how can I be happy? Like, by which I mean, like, you know, but like with websites and stuff, like I'm not Deepak Chopra. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to do yoga and stuff. We're just going to try to be happy with our websites. So let's start out with playing a game. Sounds like a fun thing to do, so let's play a game. Here's our game right here. I'm sure some of you are familiar. This game is Doom. That is correct. This is the 1993 video game Doom. Something that I... what's that? Something that I remember playing quite a bit. And I've got some facts about Doom. A couple facts about Doom. Number 1, released by id Software in 1993. In the first 2 years that it was released, it was played about 20 million, by about 20 million people. It popularized the first-person shooter genre. There were other first-person shooters before Doom, but it wasn't until Doom that it really codified what that system looked like. From that point forward, for maybe about 6 or 7 years, first-person shooters were described as Doom clones. The sequels continue to this day. There is apparently one coming out later on this year, I think pretty soon, or maybe it just came out. And it was a custom, as so many id games were, it was a custom game engine created by John Carmack specifically to play Doom. One last fact about the video game Doom is that it weighed in at 2.39 megabytes. Whole thing. Done. Custom game engine, completely revolutionized video games at that time. They were working with 56K modems. I had a 28.8, I think, at the time. They were trying to get as much down the pike as possible. They were trying to do a good job. They were trying to pack in as few bits with as much punch as possible. So they ended up at 2.39 megabytes. That's before some of the other stuff. But you know, 2.39 megabytes was their payload. Having now shown you Doom, I want to show you something else. And this here is Unfold 2007. Oh, it just already crashed. Nope, here it is again. Unfold 2017. That's not an old theme because it's called as Unfold 2017. They keep updating it. They just don't change the name. This is one of the most popular WordPress themes available on Theme Forest. Look, it's got some clip art. There's that hover thing that I love so damn much. The thing where it like scrolls as you're scrolling. I just like when scrolling happens like on multiple axes at the same time. There's some clip art people. And of course the click to go to the top button, because I forgot how scrolls work. Unfold 2017, some facts about that. $59 on Theme Forest, it's a bargain. It's got parallax. Yay. 35 images, 9 fonts, 5 scripts, and then 1,333 words. It's like 2 Chaucer poems. And the performance on this particular theme, this is just the homepage, performance on this particular homepage, about over 15 seconds on a 3G connection. And I'm saying over 15 seconds because that's the best performance that I got. Tested this about 12 times. 15 seconds was the minimum that I came in. I was over 15 seconds a lot of other times on this homepage. The weight of this particular homepage, 3.56 megabytes. Okay? So, we'll do a little bit of math for you, and that is 148% bigger than the video game Doom. So, this then begs the question, is Unfold 2017 148% better than the video game Doom? And that is something that you had, no, of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. Look at that. No. We got here a while ago. This specific Doom correlation was not my invention. I found this 2016, right by the name of Clint on Wired. Said the average web page is larger than the video game Doom. And this particular concept got traction. It started to spread. Okay, it went to other places. For example, PC Mag. The average web page is now larger than Doom. Kept going, ended up on geek.com. The average web page is now larger than the original Doom. And then I tried to load this slide specifically for this talk, and I was thinking, hey, how come this page loads real bad? That's weird. So the average web page is now larger than the original Doom. Let's hit F12, let's run a little net graph, and let's just see how we're doing. The average web page is larger than the original Doom. Here we're at 7 megs, 8 megs, 9, 10 megs, 11 megs. That's 300 requests. We're not even close to done. The average web page is larger than the original Doom. There's like 300 words in this article, and we keep going. 26 megabytes, 700 requests. The average web page is larger than the original Doom. Do they need all that? Yeah, of course they do, because the ad networks would say that you absolutely need all that. And have you ever known advertisers to lie about anything? No, of course not. The average web page is larger than the original Doom. That is an extreme example of what I would call suboptimal website performance, but not the only example. This trend line has continued unabated since this article. We look at this chart from HTTP Archive, looking from 2010 all the way up to 2019. This breakdown starts to happen. We start off at about, what's that look like, about maybe 400 and change kilobytes. Climbing. It wasn't really until this point that people decided that they wanted to do a little something about it, looking at phone speeds and looking at this problem, and they decided, well, okay, let's try to cut to, never mind, let's keep going. I do really hope that this chart doesn't continue to go and look like this anymore. But you might be thinking, what about Moore's Law? Moore's Law, of course, named after Julianne Moore from The Big Lebowski. If you're not familiar with the concept, it's generally as a notepad. Like it's the idea that every 2 years, computers double in speed. And people tend to apply that to a bunch of other things. But you very well might say that, well, since 2010, internet speeds have increased. And you are absolutely right about that. Since 2010, internet speeds have increased, but not across the board. We look at the entire if we look at the entire world, and we've got from red to green, we can see that like our actual internet speed, yeah, over here pretty good, over here not so much, and that's in 2015. If we go to 2019, the map turns colors for some reason. I'm not sure why that is, but it does say that like we've got this like light blue into dark blue, and we can see that like depending on where you actually think your users are going to be coming from, those speeds are not similar across the board. I got a chart here from Ookla, and we've got just a breakdown of, I believe they did something around 250 countries by a couple different categories. So Singapore, way up there. I mean, Singapore speeds are just unbelievable. South Korea, I mean, there's a lot of Warcraft right there. Then we go down to United States, and then we've got Slovenia, Estonia, United Kingdom at 63.65. Not bad. I mean, you're at top half of the pack for sure, which is great. That's broadband. Into mobile, a little bit different, right? South Korea, whoo. And then we've got Australia, then the United States down there. Start to get into you guys over here at 52 with 34.14 megabits a second. Getting a little, I mean, that's half the speed of the broadband, but there's other costs involved. Because the other thing that I was looking at was this particular chart, which is the cost of 1 gigabyte of mobile data. Now, this is based on an average of, like, obviously, you've got the unlimited plans, you've got the, like, pay by gigabyte plans. And so this is from cable.co.uk, who essentially tried to average all of this out and say, OK, well, if we average out all of these plans, what is the actual cost of a gigabyte of mobile data? India, obviously, very cheap there with 20p. But UK, now you're at the bottom half of the pack. £5 for a gigabyte. I mean, that's significant. It's still way better than us, because our internet is very expensive all the time. But this is where things start to kind of make a little bit more of an impact, because at this point, once you've got your double density pixel, like massive, I want to have this giant picture, but I want to make sure that it's got a transparent background, so I'll just knock it all out as a ping, and like, woo, that sure is big, but like, who cares, because it's still going to come down the pipe. That thing comes through, but you're actually now starting to actually cost your users money, which is fine if it's worth it, if your content's worth it. So we've got the idea of the connection of our 3 megs, basically our Doom checkpoint. On our 4G and our 3G plus, no problem. 3G, you know, it's getting a little bit slow. Once you get into 2G, which is not that unusual, like this is not the most common connection you're going to have, but it's not super duper weird for somebody to have a 2G. You're just never going to get that file. Like you're never, ever going to get that 3 megabyte web page. Not going to happen. We can see that in actual bounce rates. This is a study from Pingdom talking about bounce rates. Just in case, the concept of bounce rate is somebody showing up, you know, they go to their website and they bounce. They basically, for whatever reason, they see a little tiny bit of your content and they go, never mind, I'm out. If you have some company approach your workplace and they say, we can promise you 1% or 2% bounce rates, that person is not to be trusted because that's ridiculous. That is a ridiculous promise. If you can get to about 10% bounce rate, you're doing pretty good. I mean, that's about as good as you can get. And we get in this particular divot here in the beginning, yeah, once that thing starts to load fast, like our bounce rate's pretty low. It's about as low as you're going to expect it to be. But once you get up to about 6 seconds, that thing's going up. At this point, you're losing half your users. Half of your users show up, the page starts to load, chunka. You know what? Never mind. And they're out. And whatever cost and whatever effort you took in order to get those users, if there was some sort of ad campaign or whatever it is that you wanted to use to target those users and to get them into your website, half of them saw your website and went, that is too slow. And they left. And the reason for that was supposed to go way faster. I don't know how that went as slow as it did. The reason for that is that time is real. I know that's a little bit heavy. But we recognize that there's a concept that time can go faster and time can go slower, depending. But we all know in this room that if we're doing well, then great. And if we're doing worse, it's not as good. But we are aware that time is linear and it's finite. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot to weigh on you. Okay, that was a lot. But we're clever people, and we can come up with some clever solutions. So let's look at our web page, and let's see what we can do to make some improvements here, okay? So this is a talk about easy wins, by which I mean I'm not going to try to bring you any sort of zealotry. I don't like web zealotry. Somebody that says, I had this problem and I came up with a solution and now I want to tell my solution to you. That's an interesting person to listen to. The person that says, I came up with this problem and I found the solution and all of you need to understand the solution, that's a person to be ignored. I want to not bring you zealotry and I also don't want to make sacrifices. I just want to talk about easy wins. So let's start with the easy stuff. This is, a napkin sketch for sure. It's a napkin sketch. But basically, we've got a breakdown of a web page. Numbers aren't incredibly important here, but what we've got is, not that much HTML. Fonts, over time, have gotten a bigger slice of the pie. That little blue slice is getting bigger all the time. Obviously, Google Fonts was an immediate success with their kind of model. Adobe fonts just switched their distribution model. There used to be kind of a thing where the Adobe fonts would call mom and ask for permission. They no longer do that. Adobe fonts are coming sort of the same way that Google fonts are, so they've got a bigger slice of the pie too. Fonts are a decent file size at this point because they're very popular. We've got our CSS, 38%, pretty big, and then half of our pie to the JavaScript, which, okay, so there's a couple different places we could go with this, and there's a couple different ideas that we could have, but if we're actually going to look at the real problem, Okay. Okay, well, I think I know where to start. So those images are most of the time coming out of Photoshop. Now, if you've got Photoshop on your work machine, if it's part of your work life, we're going to talk about that. If you don't, no problem. We have other solutions for you. But starting off with Photoshop, I like Bjork. I think Bjork is an artist, a true artist in a way that so few artists are. And I appreciate her so much. Not every album is awesome. Some of them are unlistenable. But she is fantastic, and I will love her forever. So I'm going to take a picture of Bjork, and I'm going to save it. And it's going to look a little bit like this in Photoshop. OK, so I'm going to save this picture that I got off of Pitchfork. And I've got this big dialog window. So if I'm going to put this on a website, anyone want to take a guess of where I should click on? Anyone?
Exports.
Exports. Export, you are right. Now, there's a submenu out of export. So there's a bunch of other stuff that comes there. When the submenu out of export comes up, my personal recommendation would be Save for Web parentheses legacy. Adobe recently added this thing called Export As, where they took all of the Save for Web stuff, and they went, what if you had way fewer options? Wouldn't that be better? I disagree with that choice. So we're going to take this image and we're going to go Save for Web. Not Save As, because that's going to not care about file size. We're going to do Save for Web Legacy. OK, so then when we do that, we get a little pop-up modal window, and it looks a little bit like this. That is the Save for Web dialog inside of the Save for Web dialog, because I'm very, very clever. And then we've got a whole bunch of options here as far as our file type, as far as interlacing, obviously size, and then some other stuff down here. But we can go through this and step through and really just turn those dials to try to find what we're looking for. So a little video here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this picture of Bjork as we had it, go Save for Web Legacy, and then we're going to start off with our file of 2.4 megabytes. That's very big. That's a very, very big image. We're at maximum quality. We can actually look here and we can see different, we can sort of see the calculation of how much time it would take. This is 25 seconds. That sure is a lot. And then kind of dial this in to see like how long these different things would take. Now, obviously, we have all the pixel density, so we can turn that thing down at high. From this angle, looking at it right now, I don't think we're really losing any sort of pixel density or quality, and we've dropped our file size in about a quarter. That's with the high setting. At the low setting, well, it's mostly fine. I would be mostly happy with that image, but there's a little bit of blurring over here, which isn't my favorite. We can actually look at it side by side in this case. We've got the original up here, we've got the exported one down here, and we can just kind of dial in our quality and just play with that, keep looking at that. Obviously, we probably want to just change our image size down as well. And just keep looking at this to figure out, like, OK, I don't actually want this image to look worse. That's not my goal. I don't want this image to look worse. I just want it to be smaller. So now, having basically figured out what we're doing here, we're going to hit Save, and we're just going to put that picture in our folder with all of our other pictures of Bjork, because we all have that folder on our computer, right? And then we're done. Now, taking that image, which, again, I just downloaded from a website, we went from 2.34 megabytes in that video to 219 kilobytes. Looking at those things side by side, I don't notice any difference in image quality. And we've made this thing 91% smaller. Again, if we talk about that kind of speed and we talk about that kind of cost, this is something that starts to matter. If you don't have Photoshop or want some other options, there definitely are plenty of them. This is Jake Archibald. I don't know if any of you are familiar. He works at Google. Lives in the UK, I believe in London, although I'm not exactly sure. And among the various projects that he's worked on was this thing right here, which is called Squoosh. So Squoosh is a progressive web app, which is something I've been kind of interested in lately. It's a fun thing. It basically means you do not need internet in order to use it. But Squoosh here, we're going to open this up and look at what we got going on. So this is Squoosh. I do have an internet connection, but if I didn't have an internet connection, this still would work on this computer. And it's going to ask me to select an image. So I'm just going to go in here to our demo folder, And we'll just take this image right here. OK. So our image, as it comes out, is very, very big. But we can see here in a side-by-side, on the left side is our original image at nearly 5 megabytes. And without touching any settings, we're down here to 1.13. Not too bad. Not too bad. Now, if I look at our size, depending on what sort of box we're expecting this to be in, let's build this out to, let's go maybe 1920, something like that. Bringing that thing down. Then we've got our different file sizes. We've currently made this 92% smaller, which is certainly pretty remarkable. And then obviously we can go through our methodologies and all of our settings, kind of look around here, as well as kind of another option is to play with this quality. Now this particular image, I thought was kind of fun that we could go like this. And your designer is not going to be happy with that. Once that goes live, your designer is going to be mad that you did that. But it does look nice, I think. But we don't need to do that. Again, we're not trying to sacrifice quality for our file size. We're just trying to figure out how to make this quality work. So looking at this thing side by side, that is obviously still too low. But if we get over to, it's probably still too low here. Getting there, getting there, getting there. OK. You know, that 75 that it had it at is probably about right. Although, you know, that's still a little bit blurry. Let's go up to, let's go 2200. Get that file size up just a touch. 381 bytes. I don't know what happened there. But we've got, I have to reload on that. But if we play with this, the other thing that we've got here is, as far as our advanced settings, nothing here that I necessarily want to touch most of the time. But we do obviously have the ability to pick what our exported file type is going to be. Usually, your image is going to probably be one of these two. If it should go as a ping, OptiPing is pretty great. If you should want to get a JPEG, Moz JPEG would usually be my choice. That'd be my personal recommendation, and I think 100% of the cases. If you move down into WebP, one thing that you probably will notice at that point is your file size will get better. If I take this JPEG here that I've got at, OK, so now I'm clocking at 1.13. I bring that down into a WebP file. And I am now at a number that is totally going to come up. So now I'm at a smaller number. WebP is usually going to be smaller. But I'm going to recommend against it. And I'm going to recommend against it for a very simple reason, which is this. So this is the can I use, everyone's favorite guideline. And you can see here that there's some red that really matters. The WebP file type is, I want to say, probably about 4 years old at this point. And it is interesting and dynamic. The fun thing about it is that it can bridge the gap between lossy and lossless. It does both the qualities of JPEG and PNG, which is neat. But it is a Google spec. And being a Google spec, Internet Explorer, Edge went, you know what? We're taking your engine. We'll take your file spec as well. That's fine. Mozilla said, cool, got it. OK, no problem. Apple said, yeah, we'll think about that. Google has an opinion about it. Oh, yeah. And so if we're looking at globally, well, you know, that number is still at 78% green, which is, you know, not the best number in the world, but not too bad. If we look at the UK, that number is problematic because there's relative use of browsers. It's an aside, but we are kind of at a point with this browser thing where I'm a little bit troubled at this sort of dominance. Having lost essentially Edge into the Chromium model, We've got giant power players with a lot of opinions and not a lot of desire to work together. And every other time that's happened in the past, the web's lost. If you want to do this, you're thinking maybe I want to do this automatically, So if you're looking at Squoosh and looking at me and like adjusting all these knobs, and you're going like, yeah, man, that's cute. I mean, cool, except for like I've got 400, photos of couches, and I don't really want to be playing with all these knobs all the time. Yeah, no, you don't. Neither do I. So to that end, if you've got something that's perhaps a little bit less, let's say front pagey, and you've got a bunch of images that you want to process, this is Dan, and Dan made Imagebot. Imagebot is pretty neat. It is essentially a GitHub bot. And what happens here is that you tell Imagebot to subscribe to your repo. And you say, hey, check a look at my repo, and just tell me what you think about images. And every time you commit you give it a new commit with an image, Imagebot's going to go in there, and it's going to go, well, let's see if I can figure this out. And when it does, it'll submit a pull. There's subscribe. And when it does, it's going to submit a pull request. This is an actual repo that I have. I have Imagebot in most of my repos personally. And it'll submit this pull request and say, hey, I've just optimized your image. Thanks. Pull that pull request in. Now you've got smaller images, which is great, also very easy. But you will notice that this number here is 5%. This Imagebot method is great for its ease. I really like it for that. But you're not going to see those huge numbers that we were seeing in the previous two methods simply because this thing doesn't ever try to play with quality. It never will try to denigrate your quality. So it's going to do a pixel match regardless of what that output looks like. And so those images are going to be smaller, which is great, but they're not going to have that significant drop-off, which is OK in this particular case. As we're on images, someone want to do this? Anyone? Anyone? What do you got?
JPEGs, lossy, PNG not lossy, GIF is 256 colors at most, something like that.
Yes, exactly. I would totally agree with all of that. I would totally agree with all of that. I would say the JPEGs, lossy, anytime I'm going to take a photo or just use a photo, again, unless it's WebP, I want that thing to be a JPEG, I think 100% of the time. Ping's going to be, your drawings or your more complicated sort of anything with limited palettes. If you've got limited palette images or transparent images, you're going to want to go with a ping for that. Moving into the SVG territory, something I always like to do, that would be logos, icons, anything with limited complexity. Vectors are arcs of math. And so they tend to be very small as long as there's not complexity in those shapes. And if those shapes are simple, then they can scale literally infinitely. You can have your company logo, which will probably be 2K at most. Like you're going to have a 2K file that you can expand out to a billboard without any difference in complexity, or without any loss of quality, I should say, because that arc is going to remain that arc. That's an SVG. I would argue that GIFs are good for basically nothing at this particular point. That wasn't the case before. There was GIFs were sort of used in place of pings in a lot of cases before. And then when people, started to play with this idea of animated GIFs, then it sort of had a resurgence. But at this point, a GIF is good for basically nothing. Because an MP4 is probably the thing that you're looking at when it says GIF. I put together this slide and I tweeted about it. And then immediately, one of my friends said, I love that the image that you pasted there is a GIF. And I said, thanks a lot, man, trap sprung. That is actually not a GIF. Anytime that you're looking at a GIF on Twitter that's got a little GIF thing in the corner, that is actually a looping MP4. 100% of the time, a GIF on Twitter is actually an MP4. Giphy is using MP4s. There are GIFs on Twitter, on Giphy, but they're very, very uncommon. most of the content on Giphy is actually, and the things that are coming through in your Slack are MP4s. The Ministry of GIFs, which is the real thing that exists because the internet's pretty damn cool sometimes. The Ministry of GIFs is all MP4s. And email doesn't follow any rules. If you need to have animation happen in an email, you're going to need some rosary beads. You're going to need a lot of time. And you're going to need to do one test. And when that one test works, never test it again, because it's not going to work again. Email's weird. Having done summary here on images, and bringing down those image sizes, we can look at the rest of this stuff. And this is all text. And so all of this can be minified as well, and we can shrink down a lot of this stuff basically with one of three things. It's text compression. And I would triage it like this, and in order as well. I would say number one is server-side compression. Number two, with those files, you're going to want to bundle and minify as much as you can. And number three, consider, not necessarily use, depending, but consider CDNs. Breaking these down, by server-side compression, I basically mean GZIP. I know that there's other compression algorithms, and that's awesome. I'm sure that somebody could explain why one is better than the other, and that's totally cool. So they're all valid. But one of them is necessary. If you're thinking about GZIP and like how it works, well, it's actually pretty simple how GZIP works. It's that. Just H, that's delta, I think. I have no idea what that means. I have absolutely no idea what that means. In fact, I watched a talk with Raoul Frail at JSConf EU where he explained what that means, and I still don't know what that means. What I do know about GZIP is that you're basically just transmitting less bits over the wire. Compressed, send, receive, uncompress, less bits over the wire, always going to be an improvement. I cannot think of a reason to not do that. If you've got one, awesome, but if you can't think of a reason not to do that, turn GZIP on, please. Step two would be our bundling and our minifying. Two different things, but related to each other. Going first into bundling is another interesting math problem. The reason why you would want to bundle is that on the internet, this equation is true. 100K is bigger than 10 times 10K. Because opening up a single socket connection with a single 100K payload is going to happen faster than 10 different payloads of 10K. Not a huge difference, but it's definitely different. One number is bigger. So as much as you can bundle, as much as you can not have, the line of scripts like that, and as much as you can put that into one single file, you're going to be making an improvement here. And why Minify? Well, it's a little bit more straightforward. Moment.js, which I use all the time. I think it's great because I still think that time zones are weird. And Moment.js takes care of all of that for me. Moment.js is 148K. That is big. That is a big JavaScript file, especially if you've got it in tandem with a lot of other JavaScript files. That's big. Minified, 51K. Same thing, does the exact same thing. Don't lose a single function out of it, but the minified file is 51K. OK, well, if these two things are equal, then definitely use that one. How is the question? How is a little bit more problematic, because how depends on what your stack is. And I do not work with any of you. I don't know what your stack looks like. So I can't tell you how you should do this. What I'm going to say is how I do this. That's all I can give you. How I do this is this program called Prefrosh. I really, really like this program. It's essentially a gulp as a or grunt. Both. It's both grunt and gulp as a UI. I am a front-end web developer. I'm self-defined, I suppose. I like working in HTML, CSS. I like clicking on things. I don't love command lines. I never want to touch a command line. I use the GitHub thing that I can click on it because I don't want to type in the command line ever. I really don't. I do type in the command line sometimes, but I'd prefer not to. I also don't want to spend a whole bunch of time setting up gulp scripts. Prefrosh does this for me. So essentially, I'm just adding projects, and then I'm saying, watch these JavaScript files. When these JavaScript files change, bundle, compress, blah, blah, blah. Again, there's so many other methods to do this kind of thing, depending on what your architecture looks like. This thing might not be appropriate, but if it can be, I like it. And then CDNs, you've got CDNs like CDN.js, JS Deliver, there's the Google hosted libraries, there's a whole bunch of them. And I do think that they're worth considering for two reasons. So number one is that the CDN is probably faster than your servers. I don't know for sure. Again, I don't work with you. I don't know what your servers look like. But these CDNs are usually run by companies like Google and Cloudflare, which have better servers than I'm personally running. They're also usually proximity better, I had a stroke. They're better placed so that if you've got somebody that's coming at your website from Darfur, it's going to hit a server that's closer. Because at the point that architects start talking about the speed of light, I go, you seem to have that covered, man. You go right on ahead. So the CDN is probably faster than your servers, which makes it a valuable resource. Number two is your users already have jQuery. Yes, they absolutely do. I write jQuery still. I write plenty of Vue. Vue is great, but I totally write jQuery, and I will never apologize for it. It's a great library. And the thing is that when people talk about the cost of jQuery and like, oh, it's like 22K or whatever, like, okay, cool, but like I'm adding a whole bunch of stuff by writing like document.get element by ID. Like, I'm gonna equal that 22K pretty fast with that particular thing. But also that 22K is actually fake. Because everyone's browser, if I'm hosting this from a CDN, everyone's browser already has this file. Because they went to another website. That other website was also serving jQuery from some other CDN. It's already in cache. That 22K is there for free. So that's another reason why I would recommend, if you're using especially the popular libraries, this is almost an argument against bundling in this particular case, because now you can't bundle, or wouldn't bundle those specific files. But for those popular libraries, and your Angulars and your Views and your Moments and if you think that that thing's got enough traction and serve that thing from a CDN, probably a great idea, because you're going to actually never have that server, or I shouldn't say never. You will infrequently have that server load because they're already going to have that thing cached from that CDN. Last person I want to introduce you to is Paul Irish. You might be familiar. Paul Irish, smart guy, googly guy. And Paul Irish made this, which is Lighthouse. Now, I don't know how this is going to work out, but we're going to try it. We're going to try it. I don't know how this is going to work out. But you already got this. Depending on what browser you use, I primary Firefox, but you've already got Lighthouse in Chrome. And does anyone have a site in development that they want to run a quick test on? Anyone? Oh, yeah. What's up?
Oh, you can put my personal site if you want.
Cool. Let's do exactly that. So I'm going to bring this over to you, and you go ahead and type in that URL. Awesome. Ooh, I like this. Oh, I like that a lot. Is that your drawing? That's very fun. If you bring up whatever page you got here, and you bring that up in Lighthouse, the first thing it's going to show you is a score. And I know scores are fun. We all like scores. But we're going to look past the score, because there's other interesting things about this. So going over here, we're going to open up Lighthouse. Now, we can run an audit in several ways. And this is just F12. If you go F12, there's an audit tab. This is what you'll get. So we can audit this web page in a lot of different ways. There's a PWA, SEO, blah, 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 blah. We can do this simultaneously. We're not going to care about any of that for the moment, because we're just going to look at performance. And so we're going to say, OK, so I want you to simulate a 4G connection, maybe a slightly dodgy chip. and give me the mobile site, clear the storage, and just tell me how this goes. Now, it's going to take a minute to sort of emulate that mobile view, warming up, as they say. Oh, and actually not too bad at all. 95. Hell yeah.
Open a blog post though. I haven't done the images yet.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. So, should we just go to like this one?
That's what they want.
Excellent. So, perfect. I love that you got 95 and went, fucking challenge mode. Come on, let's do this. That's awesome. Okay, I mean, a lower number. But again, the number is not the most important thing. We want to make numbers bigger. That's why cookie clicker games are successful. I get it. But the thing that's actually relevant about Lighthouse, to me, the thing that I think is really valuable is this stuff down here. Because after saying, well, okay, so you've got this, it'll actually give you, well, here's some things that you can do in order to make this load better. So this first one is Google's big priority at this point, something that they just recently put into the Chromium engine, which is loading equals lazy. You can immediately get a better Lighthouse score by doing loading equals lazy. There's an argument that this is an ANSI pattern, which we don't need to go into, but you can essentially just like force lazy loading of images and get that initial paint faster, that initial paint of the screen, and then as the images come in, they'll be more appropriate. Now, number two, as you expected, the properly sized images getting a hit there. And then the render blocking resources. I'm guessing there's probably some extra. Is there like JavaScript in the head? Is that what that is?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so it'll give you just a bunch of recommendations. And then you can basically do that. You can do that in a dev environment. You can do it on localhost, and you can just run the test against your own localhost, and then keep looking at those improvements. Again, sure, the number gets bigger, which is cool. But what we're also interested in is just making those improvements, of just kind of scratching away a little bit of this, trying to make this a little bit more of a better player. Thank you. That was great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And then looking at this, perfection's not really the most important thing. NDC London, I mean, pretty great. Some of the partner sites, not too bad at all. There's basically, the point is that everyone can improve a little bit. I had this guy in the audience last time I gave this talk, and he was very happy with himself because he had 100. And I was like, that's awesome. Good for you. And then I looked at this morning and went, ooh, something happened. And there's my newest site. I was happy to get that. Because big numbers are cool as long as they're yours. Anyway, does anyone know who this is? Who's that? Yes. Do you know her name? Okay, but you are right. The Apollo engineer.
It's Margaret something, isn't it?
Totally. Ooh, there it is. Wow, nicely done. So this was something that was noted on Twitter a while back, which was legendary Apollo programmer Margaret Hamilton next to a printout of her node modules directory for her first Hello World React app. It's a good joke, but here's the thing. So Gary Bernhardt did the math on this, and he said, okay, well, if that's the premise, that this is a printout of Hello World, then what's the size of a piece of paper? And let's assume 12-point courier. And how does that actually work? So he did the math on Hello World and what that actually would mean in printout of paper. And then after running through all of that math, came to the conclusion, so returning the original photo of Margaret Hamilton standing next to her Hello World, the paper is about as tall as her. Therefore, Margaret Hamilton is almost 18 feet tall. I don't think we got here on purpose, but we got here. That's Hello World in 3 different things. The Angular one's a little bit unfair because it's also including material design in there. But no matter what, you've got over 100 megs of website without a website. You haven't made a website yet, and you have 26,000 files. And if that works for you, and if that makes your site great, and if that makes your site better, and if that's something that you can just grok, as they say, if you can understand it and get your head around it, and do those like Gatsby performance increases and stuff like that, that's awesome. That's so cool. I'm so glad that works for you. But if it doesn't work for you, and this is just a mentality that was recently passed down, because that's the way that web programming is supposed to work these days, no, it isn't. It doesn't. If we look at Angular in this case, we had our Doom comparison. So at 22 megabytes, that means that Angular is, without making a website yet, as big as SimCity 2000 and Minecraft and Papers, Please and Army of Me, all together. What's to be done about this? Well, again, that's contingent on what you want to do with this. But one thing that I would recommend from my perspective is that you can write HTML. HTML is going to end up on your browser whether you wrote it or not. It is an immutable fact of every web page ever. No matter what sort of cuckoo crazy rock star performance you've got going on here, there's still going to be HTML in the browser. Did the JavaScript write the HTML better than you? Maybe. Do you want to give it a shot? Maybe. So coming back to the idea of how you can be happy, one thing that I would say is that I don't like meetings, I don't like email, I don't like Slack. I like programming. And so if I can sit down and I can actually write the page the way that I want to write the page and not screw around with NPM module dependencies and stupid updates breaking stuff, then I'm happier. And that's what works for me. Thanks a bunch. That's my daughter currently upstairs learning Code Combat from Ari. But as for the rest of y'all, I like stickers. And if you are also a fan of stickers, I got a whole bunch of them here. So please come on up. Grab yourself as many stickers as you like, because I can always print more. And enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much.